Two known counterculture figures become dangerously rural after witnessing a multi-billion eternal life. Somebody write this. Hi, and welcome to Somebody Write This, where we use a random plot generator to give us an idea and then brainstorm how that could be a thing somebody might want to write. I'm Hannah, and usually Jenny is here with me. She's unfortunately not able to make it today, so we are waiting on a co-host, our previous friend of the show, Bethany McGill, to join us shortly. But as we wait on her to be able to get into the room, we're going to go ahead and introduce our guest and begin our interview. So to help us with our brainstorming today, we have our guest, Jason Luna. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Hannah. How are you?
I'm great. I'm very excited you're able to join us. So let's start off by a little bit of just kind of getting to know you as a storyteller, a story consumer. What kinds of stories are you typically most drawn to? Genres or tropes or anything like that?
I enjoy stories that give the audience or the reader a little bit of credit. I like delayed exposition. I like when the onion is peeled and you have to do a little bit of work, to figure things out. And I tend to not like stories where things are fed to you a little too
Mm.
obviously. I like to do a little bit of work. And so when I write, because I like to do some fiction writing, I try to do the same thing and to try to craft a narrative where the reader not has to, but the reader is engaged enough to kind of, I don't mind delaying a little bit, delaying information.
Yeah. So I'd love to dig in a little bit to, you're really drawn to these stories where it expects something of the audience. The audience is supposed to be following along and tracking it. Like I'd love to hear that in contrast to like art as escapism. Is that still the kind of when you want to kind of just get away and relax? Is that still something that you find very relaxing, or do you ever have those moments where you're like, I do want to just turn my brain off and watch something mindless?
Well, I'm really easy to please, and when I go in to watch something or read it, I can suspend my disbelief really well, and so I I don't ask much of a story actually. So the number of movies I watch that I like is a lot. It's a bigger number than those that I don't dislike. So it's easy to please me. So I guess a combination of both. Like when I look at my flick chart, it's a combination between some real kind of like heady cerebral stuff and also some really silly lowbrow. I don't want to call it lowbrow, but you know what I mean.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so I don't
yeah.
know. I think that's why I'm drawn to like Monty Python and like Spinal Tap
Yeah.
and like some mockumentary stuff. Like even The Office, it's like this combination between silly and profound.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I know for me, I often find that a lot of my most cathartic character experiences or moments where that have been most impactful on me emotionally often come out of stories that are silly most of the time, and then that profoundness kind of sneaks in a little bit that's been hiding there the whole time.
Right.
Yeah, so you are a writer yourself. Are there specific genres that you dabble in? Are there some that you want to try but have not been brave enough yet to venture into?
Well, I don't know about genres. I just I guess because I did write one book called Rhyme of the Angry Metalhead, which is a semi autobiographical piece about growing up on Long Island in the 1980s as a
Mm.
metalhead. Me and my buddies, um, and that took a long time, like 11 years. And now that I'm working on something else that I started during National Novel Writing Month in 2017,
Mm.
I'm actually trying to I'm trying to see if there's patterns between the two, and like, is am I in a genre? Am I not in a genre? So I think they're just like regular dramas, I guess. But it's not like I'm writing science fiction or anything. They're just pretty
Yeah.
much like not sure. A lot of it revolves around music because I'm a musician and I love music a lot. But yeah, a lot of it is a combination between quirky stuff happening, but also some really deep and dark stuff happening. So if you're
Yeah.
not into dark, like my wife doesn't like anything dark, so she wasn't a huge fan of my book, but she sup- she supported it. important scenes in the entire book. So,
Incidentally, I have just heard from our regular co-host, who is just woke up and will be on her way over shortly. Bethany, you
yay.
are welcome to stick around, and we'll just do 4 people if you would like to brainstorm, because it might be a few minutes. Regardless, we will get started and then fill her in. Our synopsis that we've chosen, and I'll put this back in the chat for people who just joined us. Our synopsis we've chosen is real confusing. It's 2 known counterculture figures become dangerously rural after witnessing a multi-billion eternal life. And we started this at just, I don't even know what this means. We talked about, do we correct the grammar on this? I don't know what to correct the grammar to. So immediate first questions or thoughts, specifically for Jason, but then Bethany, who just saw this just now and has not had time to ruminate on it. I'd love to hear that. But Jason, what were the first things that kind of drew you to this bizarre story?
Well, the fact that I have no idea what it means, I think, is it's very welcoming because the parameters are also multi-billion eternal. I guess. I mean,
It's wide open.
It's wide open, so it's that's exciting because it means I don't have to worry about any parameters, do I?
Yeah, there are no parameters. Multi-billion eternal life. Yeah, I think the two there are 2 pieces of this that are both strange. Obviously, that multi-billion eternal life is bizarre because I don't know. I don't know even. I don't know what that means. I don't understand it. But then also the dangerously rural is confusing as well. Like, how does that become a dangerous aspect?
I think the multi-billion eternal feels like a kid who's just saying a bunch of big words and they're like 5 million billion infinity.
Yeah.
I feel that's what it feels like to me.
Like a lot of aimless hyperbole.
So is this someone who saw into the void of eternity or something and has no way to describe it except for multi-billion eternal life, and it's like a Call of Cthulhu kind of thing where it made them slightly rearrange their brains just looking at it?
Well, I was thinking that one of the most operative words in this whole thing is witnessing. And I'm like, how would one witness an eternal life? And then I was thinking it has to be done in a different plane somewhere. So I was thinking maybe astral projection or like lucid dreams or something where like something is timeless, say in a dream state, right? So you can witness an eternal life if you're stuck in some kind of timeless loop outside of the natural world. So they could witness that maybe, like I said, in a lucid dream. And then maybe when they pop back into reality, that that experience of witnessing that is going to inform what happens in the quote unquote real world.
Yeah. So some sort of like life soul changing epiphany that happened through, some kind of lucid dream or some kind of alternate plane witnessing of this eternal life.
It feels a bit Everything Everywhere All at Once to me.
Right.
With the everything bagel.
Yeah. Yes, it feels a little like that, like seeing the bagel of nihilism or whatever.
The bagel. Yeah, that's a good application.
Yeah, it's a good parallel. That is very much the vibe that I'm getting off of this. So I guess the next piece that I want to untangle, and then maybe this is figuring out, maybe then we'll figure out what to do with what they actually saw. So so I want to figure out the dangerously rural. And is this connected to them being counterculture? Were they big city activists who then retreat to the country, and that's dangerous in some way?
Right. Like they're hiding what they're supposed to, like their goal, or like if they're supposed to be doing something that's supposed to help people and they're just hiding out in the rural areas.
Yeah, sure. Maybe it is like them removing themselves from society in a way that then that we have a sort of...
They're supposed to be doing stuff, and now they're not.
Yeah, we could have sort of a butterfly effect kind of situation where if these two pull out and refuse to do anything, then the world is going to change for the worse.
Maybe they're so far off the grid that it's dangerous to the two of them. Like they're not
Yeah.
capable of not capable of living off the grid. As counterculture as they think they are, they need to be more connected than they know.
I mean, and this could absolutely be also, one of those situations like in a horror story where they're out in this remote area where there's no connections and they're so far off the grid. There's no roads, there's no electricity, there's nothing, and there's no fresh water, and they are putting themselves in danger.
I don't know if you know the movie and or book called Into the Wild.
Yeah.
So they're in the book. They don't mention this in the movie, but in the book, the author John Krakauer mentions that had Chris McCandless, I think that's his name, had he brought a map, he would realize that there was a bridge like a mile north of where he couldn't cross that raging creek, and so kind of a little bit of our. We're playing a little fast and loose with the rural life, but there's still an element of having to be prepared for it,
Yeah.
And so maybe their dangerous rural is like more ignorance and stupidity. Not that Christopher McCandless was either of those things, but like this idea that some folks want to live off the land,
and don't know exactly what that actually entails of them.
Right. Like, it could help to bring a map,
Yeah.
a few resources,
Yeah, a backup plan just in case. Yeah.
Right.
When your phone GPS doesn't work anymore because there's no Wi-Fi signal.
Exactly. Bring a map. Bring some way to get out of there. Yeah. So I like this idea that they have like put themselves in sort of a with less information than Chris McCandless had, and not even as much research as he had done to live out there. But they just kind of decide. And I hear that kind of thing all the time. People just announcing that they're going to go off the grid, and I'm like, you don't know what you need to do for that.
Right.
You have no idea how to do this. You don't have foraging skills. You don't know what's safe to eat and what's not. And so they just kind of decide to go. So I guess my big question is so they see something that rearranges their lives and their purposes and what they think they're supposed to be doing, or what they think the purpose of their lives is, or of life as a whole. And the answer is to go off the grid. So I guess not necessarily even wondering what did they see, but what did they take from it? Like why was going rural their response?
So somehow they got a glimpse into the dangers of being on the grid, right? Or like being connected or something. I think about this as I'm sharing pictures of my son's first haircut. That's going to be on the internet in 600 years if there is still such a thing as the internet. And so maybe what they glimpsed was this idea that they were exposed to a truth that it's really important to get offline like now, and your digital footprint you want to try to erase as much as you can like now, or else bad things will happen, like the sense of urgency. Like they had this epiphany that it's kind of like when you realize I gotta stop eating such bad food, or else bad things are gonna happen. Mm-hmm. So maybe they got whatever they experienced in this eternal life, witnessing this eternal life. They know now they have to get off their phones and get off their iPads and everything.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so what if? Because there is something really interesting about. What if the multi-billion eternal life was seeing all the ways that the way that humans' lives are documented now stretches on forever, and is preserved forever. So it's eternal lives. It's the eternal life of multi-billion people who, and in a way that shows how people are. That shows both an ultimate like erasure of privacy or erasure of like I could see a dystopian future where that really makes it hard for people to ever make better choices because their old choices are always right there to access and to be thrown up in their faces. And it's hard for people to ever prove that they've changed or bettered themselves. And so people have a really tough time getting a fresh start because they can't, nothing in their past can be let go of because it's always there all the time.
Interesting.
So that's kind of what Jason's point was about technology and documenting our lives made me think of, that maybe they saw some kind of they saw the eternity of all people being, or all people with social media, or all people with tech access are being stamped in one place for all eternity, and then staying as that version of themselves.
Okay. I like it.
So then my other question is, go ahead, Jenny.
Well, first of all, thank you, Bethany,
for
Hi.
jumping in for me. Hi, listeners. I slept in, but I'm here now. So, okay, go ahead, Bethany.
Oh, so we discussed the two ways that you can do the dangerously rural. So my question is, if their response to witnessing the thing is to suddenly feel like they have to go underground, are we thinking that the main way that's dangerous is because they don't do it well and they're probably going to die out in the rural place? Or are we thinking it's more like by them having that instinct, they're somehow... Are they supposed to be like I'm thinking of Bill and Ted, like how they're the ones who have to write the song. Like, are these two who see it, are they supposed to be a part of the world, and being rural is dangerous for everybody else because they can change things when they get back into society? Or is it just that they will probably die out in the middle of nowhere?
Yeah, we've kind of danced around about whether they're endangering themselves or endangering the world. I am going to pause for just a second because we do have a title that I think might be useful to add into the list for now before we make a decision on that, because it might influence. So our title is Anti-Government Hysterias.
Oh, that fits.
So
it's very dystopian.
So there is definitely some funky governmental component going on here. Jason, what do you think?
Oh, now that I got the title, it's really spun everything that I was thinking in an opposite direction.
Oh, right. Okay. So in what way? Where's it leading you now?
Well, let me tell you where I started, because you know how there is a kind of a hierarchy in, let's say in heaven, in the Judeo-Christian heaven, there's this the first will be last and the last, that kind of thing. So I wonder if there's a spiritual component to it in terms of they get a glimpse into whatever you want to call it, the afterlife, eternity, and they have this epiphany whereby in the debit credit system, the most spiritually rewarded people are the ones who were most offline or with the smallest digital footprint. And so that gives them that urgency to be a ton less digital. But I don't know how that would play into the anti-government hysterias at all, unless if somehow it's found out that the government, it's in their better interest to have more people online,
Yeah.
Isn't it I don't know if this is a fake George Orwell quote, or how there's so many fake quotes on the internet where it's, or maybe it's not his quote. We're talking about Orwell was talking about the privacy issues, but we had no idea that we ourselves were going to be the ones that were going to be the monitoring device for ourselves. So in other words, we give up our privacy by offering all this stuff on social media. And so it's impossible not to violate your own privacy. We're doing it to ourselves,
Right.
If there is such a thing as a big brother, we provided it.
We are it.
Yeah, we're it. We provided it ourselves, willfully and gleefully. We were very happy to post pictures of ourselves doing stuff. Is that a rabbit hole of a thought?
Yeah, no, I really like I think we can combine some of this. I really liked where you were going with the sort of that they become dangerously rural to balance out it reminds me a little bit of the one subplot of the guy from The Good Place who suddenly figures out how the afterlife works and spends the rest of his life living off the grid and foraging, and every time he steps on a bug, he has to go out and do something else, and living this very disconnected life. And so I think there's something really interesting about the idea that maybe it's dangerously rural because they look at this at the tremendous negative privacy erasing impact of social media and of the digital age, and think that the answer is entirely to shut it down for themselves, when the answer might be, because along with all
shut
that,
it down for everybody.
well, along with all that, like, social media and technology also has really wonderful potential, like good things that are coming out of it as well. And so I'm wondering if it's a binary thing where they're deciding, oh, we have to shut it down all the way, and in doing so, they do endanger themselves and people they love, the world around them, because they're no longer being a counterculture figure in the world, actively trying to shape it for the better.
Right.
They're just withdrawing from society entirely.
That's the paradox. Yeah, what Jason said was giving me kind of like Back to the Garden vibes.
Mm-hmm.
You got two people going rural outside of the world. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's like Adam and Eve kind of thing.
So the question then is, how does the government play into this?
Right.
Because, I mean, you can connect that to the idea of, like, that's a question that comes up in political discussions as well. Like, do you just withdraw from everything and refuse to participate? Do you stay in the system and fight? Do you stay in the system and give in?
And possibly be corrupted.
And possibly be corrupted. And it is a tough call. like, you know, it is... Mm-hmm. There are downsides to all of them.
To quote, be in the world, but not of the world.
Right, that kind of vibe. And so maybe there's something specifically that they are, maybe they're viewed as just having anti-government hysteria. And they're like, no, I saw this vision. I saw this actual, all this negative stuff coming out of it. And their response was to withdraw entirely, not realizing that then that is putting things further in danger. And maybe I just have this image of them like continuing to see visions that continue to show the worsening of the world, and not recognizing that part of that worsening is coming because they have stepped out of it, that their withdrawing has taken away the good pieces that they were adding in.
So my question is what happens between the time they have this vision and when they decide to completely just leave everybody and go off grid? Like, do they try? What are they trying to shut down how things are going? Do they try to influence it? Is that where the story is?
I lean toward the story of it being them being rural.
Okay.
And the thing we haven't really talked about yet, and we only have like 3 minutes left to make this make sense, so good luck to us. But the other thing that we haven't really addressed is that they were known counterculture figures. So they were already standing against the culture in some way, whether in like a meaningful way or whether in kind of, just, we're edgelord kind of ways. So it could be meaningful or not. But there's something interesting to me about them being people who had fought against this and then suddenly turning around and being like, I cannot do this anymore. And shutting down and being like, I cannot do any good. I'm going to go hide.
Right.
I feel like I've seen that in people who it's really easy to burn yourself out fighting for the right thing, fighting for good, fighting in activism, and seeing how many problems there are and how many of them seem to not be getting any better. It's very easy to get overwhelmed and say, I might as well just remove myself from everything so that I'm not doing any more damage.
Like, I guess that was my question earlier, because like you said, if they're already fighting against the system, when they see the vision, that's when they go off grid and give up on everything. But then I guess our story is like whether or not they go back to it.
Yeah, like you could either have it be something where the whole story is about watching them get further and further away from everything, and at the end it's kind of this bleak ending of, and whoa, we now are part of the problem. Or you could have them realize that sooner, and you could have the end be happier where they realize their mistake and then go back and integrate into society. So I don't know which way you or what
do you think, Jason? Do you want a bleaker or a more optimistic ending for this?
Man,
what do you
I don't know. I think I'm feeling bleak.
Yeah, fair.
Pretty bleak.
I'm feeling bleak today, man.
Yeah, I don't know. Like a lot of these narratives, they don't end too hot. I feel like we're not headed towards a happy ending here.
As we talk about this feels like a very relatable experience. Wanting to fix things and then realizing there's so much to do and that maybe what we're doing isn't helpful, and being like, whatever, I'm just going away. I'm just going to hide and not be part of this. And wondering if that's the right choice. And I don't know, like maybe we end it on like a semi where one stays dangerously rural and one goes back and becomes dangerously counterculture again, and they're both dangerous now. Who knows?
I got a potential ending. You want to hear my ending?
Yes.
Okay. So they decide, okay, we're going to go back and we're going to help fight and we're going to change the world. And when they get back into the online, they find out that they've been monitored the whole time and like people were watching them like the Truman Show.
Oh man, that's got to be a Black Mirror episode right there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, woo. Yeah, maybe. We are like right at time, Jason. We kind of overwhelmed you at the end. Is there anything that you want to make sure and
so sorry.
that has been in there? Anything that we haven't hit on that you would like to bring up?
Well, I was actually thinking the same thing Jen was, because I was like, wouldn't it be interesting if they had asked someone to document their being off grid so they could post it online?
Oh my gosh! I love that.
The point.
Or if one of them did and didn't tell the other one. And so one of them is like being fully sincere, being like, we're going to be all the way off. And the other one is kind of, you know, still being part of the problem while trying to highlight the problem kind of thing.
Right. And maybe if they can increase their subs and their traffic, it's going to help them stay off grid. And so it's kind of what do you call it? It's like a loop.
Yeah.
And so the more off grid they are, the more subs they get and the more likes they get, and the more they're able to sustain themselves off the grid.
And the one is like
next season on Survivor.
Like there is a moment where they like almost where things get really dire for them. Maybe they do like they aren't able to get enough food for the winter, or they aren't able to get enough shelter or something, and
are actually about to die.
Yeah, and it is those things that save their lives. And so then later, when it comes out that this whole thing has been documented, he was like, "Where do you think we got that from? Like, where do you think I got the money for that? Like, I didn't just like trade a random person for this. This was I walked to town and ordered it on Amazon, and we have this now."
Hey, you know in Truman Show, you know I don't remember the character's name, but his true love, the one that's on the outside looking in.
Yeah.
Maybe this pair will have some kind of person on the outside who's been engaged digitally that's going to try to find the real like rural area that they are and find them and blow up, you know, what's really happening. If it is true that one of the two, right? You have these two known countercultures is playing the other one in terms of, hey, we've really been online. And so there's someone on the outside that's going to push in and go, hey, dummy, we see everything you're doing. You're not like
those people who show up in the Truman Show with like the signs being like, you're on a show.
And they got to usher them out of there. They got to like scoot them out of there, you know?
Yeah. Oh, okay. So that actually really solidified a lot for me in our last few missing minutes. So I'm glad we did that, but we do need to wrap things up because we have another podcast scheduled in 10 minutes.
This was a lot of fun. Thank you.
Yeah, we will take just one more moment to for each of us to share again a story that we would like to recommend to our listeners, any medium, any genre. And I will, in the vein of this, I have been making my way through Black Mirror, and it is bleak and it is terrifying, but it's also really, really thoughtful and well written. And not every episode is a gem, but a lot of them are really fascinating and really good horror stories. But also there are some that are like, ooh, yeah, maybe this is not too far away from where our world could be. So what do we need to do to be mindful of that? So if you haven't ever watched it, there's no new Black Mirror. Black Mirror is probably, at least the first 2 seasons, which as far as I am, are definitely worth a watch. Jenny, what would you like to recommend for our listeners this week?
I got to see the new Netflix, was it Netflix series? Yes. All the Light We Cannot See. I have not read the book yet. I think it's been previously recommended, but the series was beautiful. It was gorgeous and it was brutal and it was heartbreaking. It's the story about this blind girl in France during World War II, and she's been operating a ham radio reading stories out into whoever's listening, and her past and what happens to her, and it's just a gorgeous story. Definitely worth the watch. Go watch All the Light We Cannot See on Netflix.
Yeah. All right, Bethany is our substitute co-host. What would you like to recommend?
I was purely trying to look through all the things I've read on Goodreads and stuff and see my recent movies, but I haven't watched very many movies lately. So I'll just go with, if it hasn't been recommended before, I'll go with a TV show. My sister and I just finished rewatching Once Upon a Time, which I know is like 10, 12, 15 years old. I have no idea how long it is. But it's just, I think that's a really fun one that does have some, soap opera drama situations. But I think it has some really good arcs for some of the main characters, and I think Regina's arc from evil to good is really, really strong, and she becomes a fascinating character. And I think it's if you enjoy fairy tale stuff and you don't mind a little bit of melodrama, the main characters are solid, and some of the love stories are really charming, and so I think it's worth a watch as long as you can handle a little bit of melodrama. I think it has some really solid payouts. So.
All right, and Jason, as our guest, you get to recommend something as well. What would you like our listeners to check out if they haven't?
Well, my suggestion is that you should give your partner her or his favorite shows a chance, because I thought it was the corniest thing in the world, a few of my wife's shows, and I wound up giving them a chance, and I fell in love with them. And I'm going to break a rule. Instead of one, I'm going to give 3 titles.
Do it.
Grey's Anatomy, Gilmore Girls, and Downton Abbey are 3 shows that I would never have thought to watch, and I would kind of goof on her for. But, I mean, they're so rich in character and narrative, and I'm glad I gave them a chance. So my polite recommendation is for those folks who think those are corny shows for your partner, give it a shot, and you might be surprised at how wonderful they are.
Yeah, awesome. All right, before we go, Jason, we want to make sure that you can plug anything of your own. So if you want to tell us where we can get your book or any social media you want to share, anything you want.
So yeah, my book is called Rime of the Angry Metalhead, and it's currently on Amazon. So if you just look it up by the author name Jason Luna or by the title Rime of the Angry Metalhead, it's there. I think it's like $15 or something. So that'd be cool if you would support me by picking up a copy of my book. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Nice. I definitely will want to. I know you'd mentioned it on Facebook, but I had never looked it up, so I'm going to have to do that now. Thank you so much for joining us. This was a really fun. I'm glad it kind of came together in the end, in the last couple seconds.
We wrapped it up nice.
It was fun.
All right, folks, that is our episode. As a reminder, you can find us every other Thursday wherever you get your podcasts, and you can join our Patreon for a bonus material. Today, we want to especially thank our patron, Bethany, who was here on the call with us, who just started supporting us. So thank you, Bethany.
You're welcome.
Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at WriteThisPod or on Facebook /SomebodyWriteThis. And if you've been inspired by this episode and have questions or comments or a bit of story or anything else, email us at somebodywritethis@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. Also, I'd like to announce that we are now on YouTube.
Yeah.
We're putting up current episodes as they go, and I'm working on getting the backlog of all our previous episodes up there, so go listen to us there too.
And we'll be back with another episode in 2 weeks. See you then.
And as they say, a good bird does not cry twice.